Hey everybody, I'm Mike, Regala Photography, where we talk about everything photography. Today we're going to talk about editing winter photos. Now, unfortunately for me, I live up here in Rochester, New York, and since November we've only had a total of maybe 10 inches of snow, so I have really yet to take any decent winter photos up here. So the photo that I'm going to edit today is actually from 2021, and I'll talk about that photo in a minute. But winter photography, it can be very challenging, not just taking the photo, but also editing the photo. Something with the bluish tone in colder photos, along with all the white from the snow and the reflection. The sun reflects off the snow and it causes the white balance to kind of get a little wonky. So, editing winter photos, a lot of times people have a hard time doing that. So, what we're going to do today is we are going to edit this photo that I took in 2021, and we'll show you a few little tricks here and there to get the photos looking really good. All right, here we go. As you can see here, we have a winter scene. This is actually Lake Ontario. It's actually the beach, and what happens is that throughout the winter, um, the wind blows and the ice freezes, and it all blows up, and it causes these we call them little ice mountains. They start to peak, and they look really cool, but they can actually be very dangerous. I know I started kind of walking out, I don't know, maybe around here, uh, down the beach a little bit, and didn't realize I was actually right above the water because I thought the beach was actually went down out a little farther, and I actually dropped about 12 inches, which again doesn't sound like a lot, but when you're walking and you fall through ice, it kind of scares the heck out of you. So if you are in a situation like this, do not go walking out. Definitely do not go climbing on these mountains of ice. They're not as solid as you think they are. They look like they're big structures, but they're really not very secure. So just be extra careful. So let me go over here in the develop module. Okay. And let me open up the basic tab. And the first thing I want to do is check my profile. Let me see. Let me go with, I'm going to have to open it up, I think. Yep, I want to go into a neutral. So let me find the neutral one. I changed it up a little bit here and there on which profile I will use. Um, but let me see, where's neutral? There it is right there. So you can see how it kind of flattens out the color and the contrast a little bit. And I do that depending on the photo. If it's a nice spring day or summer day where there's like a lot of color, I might go to Adobe Standard or even Adobe Landscape to brighten it up a little bit to kind of give me a little assist with the color. But when it comes to these winter photos, I want to add the color that I want to add because if you look at it, I mean it's kind of almost monochrome. It's almost black and white. So we definitely want to kind of add the color as we go and not have the computer do it for us. Okay. So we'll do that first. Next, what I want to do is I want to look at the crop. Okay. This little bump right here, it's kind of bothering me. I know I don't even know if I noticed it when I took it, but I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to move it up above that a little bit right there. And then that way it's actually going to move my horizon line actually closer to this lower third section, which kind of brings more attention to the sky. I kind of I kind of like that a little bit better. So we'll do that right there. And as you can see, I think this looks much, much better. It's kind of almost like a pano, like a short pano. But so we'll go from there. All right. Now, sometimes I do the automatic white balance, and I'm going to try it. I always try it to see how it is. But we're going to go over here, someplace over here that should normally be white. And if I click on that, it does turn it a little bit bluer, okay? Which actually for this particular scene, I don't mind it that way too much. I want it to be a little bluer. Now there was some sun. You could see this the highlights a little bit. The sun was coming from this direction over here, out here from the west, and you could see it was highlighted. If I remember correctly, this photo was shot at around uh, four, 4 or 5 o'clock. I have about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, maybe almost five. Don't forget the sun sets really early in the East Coast here in the United States. So around that time, so the sun was coming here, and you can see there were some clouds and all that stuff. So it did have a little bit more of a blue tone. I probably could add a little bit of magenta. No, I don't want to go magenta. So let me get that back to zero, back to where it was here. Sorry, I can't see here. There we go. Oh, all right. So we'll go from there. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to increase the exposure a little bit just to give me a little bit of playing room. Actually, it's not going to stay that way because what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring the highlights down. Actually, I'm going to do that. I'm not going to bring them down too much, but I am going to bring the shadows down a little bit there. The whites, I'm going to definitely boost the whites. You gotta be careful though with the whites because you do not want to blow out the highlights. So I'm going to actually lower the highlights a little bit more, just kind of bring a little contrast in. And then the blacks, bring the blacks down, and you can see now how the sky's getting darker. And we're going to work on the sky in a little bit, but right now I'm just kind of worried about down in here in the foreground, just to kind of get some contrast in there. Now, sometimes I use the contrast slider, sometimes I don't. In this case, I mean, I'll do a little bit. I didn't really do much. Um, but actually, I don't even think, yeah, I did. I did a plus 10. So just a little bit to give it a little bit more contrast here. And again, I may change that as time goes. Clarity, I always boost the clarity up a little bit. And that also will add to the contrast as well. Um, in this particular case, I'm going to bring the texture down. Sometimes it depends. Like if I'm on a close up with like grass or sand, I may bring the texture up, but otherwise I'm going to bring it down a little bit right there. Um, Vibrance. Let's bring the vibrance up a little bit. We'll see how that goes. And what I'll do is I'm going to lower the saturation a little. That's too much. Right about there. And then we're going to bring the vibrance up a little bit. And you can see it's definitely going to add a little bit of red. We're going to work on these warm tones up in here because I like the contrast between the warm and the cold. But yeah, so it kind of minimizes the color down here, and again we're going to work on that in a minute when we do color grading. But it minimizes the color down here, and then also up here it focuses on the more on the contrast. We're going to work on the color again up here as well. But next, what I want to do is I'm going to go down to the details. And what I like to do is bring the radius all the way down, the detail all the way up. We're going to raise this up. I usually bring it up to maybe almost 90 or so. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the mask, and I'm going to hold down the option key. And you'll see when I do the mask. Oh, it's not working here. What's going on? Is it the option? It should work. What's going on? Huh. Normally, there we go. And you can see now I can focus where I want the sharpening to happen. Okay. So I'm getting the sharpening, and I don't want the sharpening really in the sky. And I really don't want too much sharpening here in the foreground. I want it mostly right there in the little ice mountains right there. Okay. So we got the detail. Now, let me see. Now, what we're going to do is we are going to go over, and I am going to do a little bit of color grading here. So, what I want to do is Let's see, the shadows. I definitely want to bring a little bit more blue in the shadows. And let me see, there we go. So we're getting a little bit more blue. I want to darken them up a little bit. Okay. And now with the highlights, I want to warm it up a little bit in the highlights, but not too much. Because like I said, it was technically golden hour. So I do want to add a little bit of that back. Okay, you can kind of see right there. See, now you see the highlights, how they're starting to warm up a little bit. I'm going to lower that. No, I want to keep that brighter. I do want to keep those brighter. Okay, there we go. Perfect. All right. And I'm not going to touch the midtones at all. I want to leave the midtones right where they are. So there's your color grading right there. Now, what we're going to do now before anything else is we are going to go into masking. Oop, I forgot I just upgraded. All right, here we go. So masking, what we want to do the sky first. So let's do the sky. Here we go. All right. So the exposure, we're going to bring the exposure up a little bit, not much, right there. Highlights, I want to bring those up a little bit because we're going to add a little bit of warmth there. Let me see. Shadows, we want to bring the shadows down because the clouds were kind of ominous. Bring the whites up a little bit and the blacks right there. Now texture, again, we're going to go down with the texture, kind of smooth out those clouds a little bit. Up the clarity. See how that kind of gives a little bit more contrast. And then we're not going to touch the haze at all. And I want to add a little bit of warmth right here. Right there. I don't go too much. And then we want to go a little bit of tint, but again, not too much. I don't want to go purple. If we go too much, see how the sky turns purple? We definitely don't want that. So we want to have just a little bit of color in there. And then I'm going to, if I can find it, they just upgraded Lightroom here. So I'm kind of lost with the way they did everything here. I want to increase the saturation just a little bit. And again, that magenta, I want to bring that down. Let me type in. I want to do about a 4. Let me see, 4. There we go. There, that's a little bit better. All right. Oh, let me see what else do we can do. Oh, we could bring should we bring the highlights down a little bit more? No, we don't got too much. Let's bring the highlights down. Let me increase the whites and see what happens there. There we go. Okay, that's good right there. Okay, now we are going to close this up. We're going to do another mask. And then what I want to do is, let me see here. Sorry, I got a new desk set up over here and I'm getting confused here. We're going to select the sky and then I want to invert it. Okay, now we got the foreground. I'm not going to worry about this little, like depending on the photo, I will uh, subtract all that from the mask. Matter of fact, you know what? I'm going to do it anyway. So let me see, where is subtract? We're going to subtract. We're going to use a brush and we are going to make the brush smaller right in here, and we're going to just subtract all that right there. And again, I'm not too concerned because those hills are all white, so there's like huge contrast right there. So I'm not going to be too concerned. There's more over here a little bit. There we go. Okay, so we're done with that. All right, so now what I want to do is I want to increase the exposure just a little bit. Increase the highlights just a tad. Bring those shadows down. And then bring the blacks down again a little bit. Kind of look at it. Almost looks like another alien planet or something like that. And then increase the whites just a little bit. There we go. Now I definitely want to add some even more clarity. And then this one I'm going to add a little text. No, let me see. See if I add, then you see a lot of the tracks show up. But when you subtract a little bit, it kind of, I like that. It looks more natural that way. Okay. And then I want to, where's the saturation? Kind of subtract a little bit of color from there. Okay, perfect. All right. Close that up. Okay. Now we're going to do, actually, I'm not going to do it in here. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll add a vignette or I'll use a radial filter um, to do that. But I'm actually, you know what, before I do that, I'm going to do, definitely going to do another mask. Okay, let me do another mask here. And I want to do a brush. Where's the brush? Here we go. Okay. Now, what I want to do is I want to increase the highlights a little bit, increase the exposure. Actually, we're going to bring the highlights back down. Increase the exposure. I can always change that in a minute, but I want to emphasize some of this. Let me make my brush smaller here. Okay, and we're going to add a little bit more right there. Let me see. Add some in here. Just light little streaks here. We're going to definitely change it up a little bit in a second here. It's a little too bright, but I want to be able to see it, so that's why. And let's add a little bit up here on this peak. There we go. That looks good. And this one right here. And then we do have a couple in here somewhere, so let's. Okay. Over here, I gotta change this up a little bit. I'm gonna have to feather that here. Hang on. Oh, here it is up here. We're gonna feather that even more. Actually, yeah, we don't want to do that. We want to edit. We want to undo. There we go. Okay. And then what I want to do is I want to lower that exposure a little bit more. And then I want to increase the highlights a little bit. And I want to add a little bit of warmth into those highlights. Not too much, but just enough. All right. Now we are going to add another brush. And then I want to lower the exposure down a little bit. And then lower the shadows down a little bit in there. And then we're going to increase the size of my brush here a little bit. There we go. And just right in there. Just a little bit here to kind of make that brush smaller. Okay. These little rocks right here, we want to make them a little more predominant. Let me see right there. We need some. This side definitely needs to be darkened up a little bit. And I think that's pretty much it. I'm not gonna darken it that much. Perfect. And we're gonna add a little bit of blue into those shadows. Just a bit. Okay, close that up. All right. Now, this is my little secret sauce right here. So what I'm going to do is right click, edit in, and we are going to edit it a little bit in Luminar Neo. All right. So now Luminar Neo. I usually don't use any presets. Once in a while I will, but otherwise I'll just do the regular editing over here. Now what I want to do here is I want to do the enhanced. So I like to do that just a little bit. Kind of give me a little pop. And then the sky, it will definitely mess with the contrast a little bit. And then structure, it's kind of like clarity, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to add quite a bit on here because of what I'm going to do in a minute. It's all going to change up a little bit. Okay. Let me see. Where is it here? Landscape. I love this one here, Golden Hour. I love how this is done. It does a very good job. I mean, it does the whole picture, but not mostly the highlights though, which I really, really love. There you go. So it's going to make that pop a little bit. All right. So now we're going to go down a little bit here to Mystical. Now, Mystical is kind of almost like a, what's the effect I'm thinking of here? It's right here actually. The Orton effect. It's kind of like an Orton effect, but I like it better than Orton. So what it's going to do is it's going to soften it, make it very surreal. Okay. And then I can increase the softness a little bit, softens everything up. The shadows, I'm going to leave them where they are. Warmth, let me see. Yeah, I don't want to go. I want to go cool. I want to cool it down a little bit. So there we go. Cooled it down a little bit. We're going to lower the saturation a little bit, not too much. Okay. And then what I want to do is come up. I love the vignette in here. The vignette in Luminar, in all the Luminars, is awesome the way they got it because you put your vignette on here, all right, and it does a very good job of it. But then it's got an inner layer where you can brighten up the middle. And I mean, I like Lightroom has it too in a way, but I love the way Luminar does it much better. I'm gonna feather that a little bit more. Okay. Sorry, my dogs are barking. So yeah, and that's pretty much it right there. So we're gonna hit apply, and oh, see down now again. This is what you gotta watch out for. I'm actually kind of glad this happened. Look right here. You get a lot of banding, and that's from over editing your photo. Okay, so here's the one before I send it over to Luminar. Okay, and then here's the one after. You can see I did a little too much editing, and you can see the magenta and all that coming in. So you got to be really, really careful. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back. I'm going to take this one again. This is the one we had. I'm going to send it back over. So instead of trying to fix it or anything like that, I'm just going to redo it. There it is. Okay, Luminar Neo. And I'm going to back off on stuff. And I think I know which one did it this time. A lot of times that enhanced slider in Luminar Neo is what causes it. And I really don't know what it's doing. I know it messes with a few things, um, contrast and color and stuff like that. So I'm not going to touch that one this time. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to add some structure. And also sometimes the mystical will do it too. So you know what I'm going to do? Instead of mystical, let me try here. We're going to do the glow effect, and we're going to do a glow effect with Orton. And then let me see if this does a better. No, see, I don't like the way it looks. I mean, I could do that, and I could lower the brightness, I guess. Yeah, so I don't like the way that one looks. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back to mystical. There it is. And then we're going to add some, but we're not going to add too much. We're going to see what happens this time. And again, sometimes they mess with the algorithm a little bit, and sometimes these Luminar doesn't. It kind of it acts funny sometimes. It just acts really funny. So that's why I don't use it as a main program for editing photos. I like to just use it as a plug-in. So now we're going to come here, kind of do that a little bit right there. the inner light, brighten it up a little bit, feather it a little bit. Now, hopefully, let's see if that did a better job. Much better. See, doesn't have, now the banding you do see is actually just from my computer screen. So, but what we'll do is, and again, this is a cool little trick to do where they've sorry, they moved it up here. Okay, I'm going to take my texture and I'm going to bring the texture down, and that will soften it up the extra little bit, take a little bit of clarity, bring that down a little bit, and we are good. And there is your winter photo, edited in both Lightroom and also in Luminar. Well, hopefully you liked the winter photo edit, and I hope that it helped you out. And so until next time, please subscribe, hit the like button, ring that bell. Ding, ding, ding. And until next time, take care.